All right. Welcome to all listeners to the podcast Pathways to Self-Discovery. And today, as a guest, I have Frank Sieben. And Frank Sieben is a coach. He is the founder of and co-creator of the Expand Into It, which he has on his X account. And that's where I actually found him first time. It was during the fall that his content, that his interactions actually deeply resonated with me, and we started to have a conversation. And I think also that the first time I heard Frank and I spoke to Frank was on a space, I think on Twitter, on X. And I was so happy to have talked to him, and it felt like a natural thing that I wanted to do, to speak with him and to interview with him on my podcast as well. So welcome here, Frank. And please feel free to also expand on what I've already said. There's more to you than what I obviously said. So please feel free to introduce yourself as well to our listeners. Who are you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm really grateful being here with you and co-creating this podcast with you. And I remember the space, and in this space where we kind of like connected in a divine way, I felt your energy and what you shared in this moment. Also, it was about, if I remember this correctly, it was about integrity with ourselves, integrity with like being authentic and being in integrity with yourself, connected with the heart. That really resonated with me because like this is one of my highest values, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was beautiful divine guidance to bring us together. So
Yeah.
I am a coach. Yeah. It's, what's interesting about this is probably the way to see this is, to the outside I may seem to be a coach, but when people start connecting with me, there's so much more to discover, because it's not just coaching. This is also why I'm detaching from the labels like guide or coach or whatever you want to call this. And for me, it's more a co-creation, and it's a co-creation that is a catalyst for transformation, for real transformation. This is what I'm interested in, and this is also what I'm working on and what I'm co-creating with my clients. And I I love seeing people win. I love seeing people thrive, and co-creating from a space of love, unconditional love towards everything, and making this the new baseline. This is basically what I do. And then, or who I am, actually. It's not so much what I do, it's who I am. And then there's this component of soul aligned business, which is coming from love, coming like seeing unconditional love as a filter for everything you create. And then on the entrepreneurial side, being badass with that, right? Like you can be badass, and because when you have a sacred service, then you're invited to share this with as many people as possible and really bring something to other people that benefits them, and create a win for the universe, a win for the client, a win for their world around them, a win for my business, and a win for me.
Right. So how did you come into this? When did you realize that this is what you do? This is what you want to do? When did you discover this about yourself?
That's a great question. So for me, it started 7.5 years ago. It's now 7.5 years ago, when I had a health crisis. I've been a music producer for 25 plus years, and I've been in a toxic environment all around. And at that time, I was in Hamburg. I also wanted to jump off a bridge in Hamburg and end my life. And I realized that there's more to life than what I see in this moment. So I woke up one morning, and as a music producer, that's like probably a death sentence in a way. I woke up and I had a hearing loss on my left ear, and my hearing loss was minus 90%, and it came with a tinnitus. And I was shocked because in this moment, I woke up and I immediately felt something is not right. And then I panicked. I completely fell apart because my life as I knew it was over. And I had multiple warnings from my body and also from, let's say, circumstances that happened for me, but I ignored them before. So the universe and my body teamed up together and they found something to throw in my path so that I couldn't ignore this anymore. Because when you have, as a music producer, when you have a hearing loss, you don't think about going into the studio. Like that's a no. And see, this is the thing, right? Like you have so many dreams and you have so many ideas what you want to create, but if you're not healthy or if you're not well, you only have one wish, you only have one dream, to get healthy again, right? So to make a long story short, I went to 5 doctors in Hamburg and all of them told me I have to live with it. One even he went to a cupboard and he wanted to cut into my ear with a scalpel. And this moment I completely backed off and I'm like, okay, so this stops here. This is not happening. And I walked off. And when I was walking down the stairway back to the pedestrian precinct in Hamburg, I heard a voice, and this voice was scaring me because first moment I was like, where's this coming from? And I literally turned around, it's like, is that? But there was nobody. And the voice was saying, nobody is deciding what you're going to do with your life and how you live your life, Frank. So in this moment, this voice, as you can imagine, probably this voice gave me hope. And I started tuning into this voice, and I had this suggestion to meditate and really form like a white, golden liquid light and send it to my ear. So I started meditating all day instead of going to my studio. My ex-girlfriend at that time, she didn't understand what I was doing, and she was even mobbing me or ridiculing me. But I didn't care. I sat on the floor on my meditation pillow and I started meditating and sending this light to my ear. And 6 weeks later, I woke up, and as a music producer, I'm a nerd, right? So I had a little setup on my computer to check with my headphones if my hearing is improving, and I check every day, right? And I woke up after like 6 weeks, 5, 6 weeks, and I knew immediately something is different. So I ran to my computer and my hearing started to improve after 5, 6 weeks. And now I'm sitting here in front of you with no hearing loss and no tinnitus. And I'm truly grateful for this every day. And these are the small things that, yeah, you can bring gratitude to, right? That add up. And this initiated me into a self-discovery, because it turns out that in my music, I always was about spreading the love. And you can hear this in all of my tracks, right? Like all of my tracks have a frequency uh, that is aligned with love, and you feel my soul and my heart in this. And I have over 1,000 releases, and I tuned most of those releases from the age of 17. I tuned them down to 432, so I'm not recording at 440 hertz, which is like a DNA destructive frequency. I tuned to a DNA healing frequency, which is 432. And so what I realized was that I have not just a message in my music, I also have a message myself. And the universe was inviting me to step into this and become the messenger, not just through the music, but through who I am. And I started to discover the online world. I started to dive into also online marketing. And I started to see how I can, just by being present with people, how I can help them build amazing businesses, build websites, change their mindset, heal, traumas, heal themselves, find and recreate a connection to their self-love and all of those things. And then from there, it started to inspire me to step further and further into my journey. And 3 years ago, from a contractor job, I started to create my own coaching business. I was so scared to do this. And it was on my mind for at least 2 years. My partner was like, you have to do it. You have to do it. And I was scared. I was like, no, I can't do it. I'm going to fail. And I had all those stories, right? But then I did it. And within 1 month, I reached 6 figures. And the rest is history.
Wow,
Now I'm here
wonderful.
with you.
Yes, now you're here with me.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Thank you
And
for allowing me to share.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious about a few things, obviously. You describe your journey from going from being a music producer, where you said it was a toxic environment, and then you went to this pathway of, I guess, self-discovery, where you discovered things about yourself, about life, about what you truly wanted, and you use words such as, or expressions such as, I was invited by the universe. All of a sudden, you discovered something within yourself that you wanted to share with the world, right? You have a message. What is that message, would you say? Or
It's this.
when did you discover it, the message? Was it when you sat and meditated? Was it like, when did it come to you? Did it come to you immediately, or was it in stages?
I love this question because it's the same message as before. It's just that I become the messenger myself, right? It's spreading the love and really, as it turns out, because I had a discovery of my purpose, and my purpose that I co-created together with my facilitator is to be the unconditional stand for others so that their heart is awakened to the impact and love they bring into the world. And this is my absolute north star, and also my total value guidance system for everything: relationships, spiritual journey, business, relationship with myself, everything. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it always has been there. Yeah.
So if I can just mirror that and say to you, what I hear when I listen to you is that you, as a human being, as a coach in your business and everything that you do, your purpose is to sit with the other person, to be with the other person in such a way that you create a space for that person to take space, to step in, to also to how should I put this? To reconnect with themselves and what they have within themselves to bring to this world, to offer to this world. Did I hear you correct? Is that would you say that that's a fair description of how you see yourself, or what you do, or is it more than that, less than that, different?
Yeah, it's not so much about what you do, it's about the energy behind what you do and the intention behind what you do, right?
Yeah,
And if you come from a place of love, everything is expanding, everything is expansive, right? And you feel this in your system. Like now, for example, I'm speaking with you, and I'm feeling the energy that we have co-created, and I feel a loving energy, I feel an openness, and I feel we can lean into each other, right? And that is something that is really valuable for me. And that's kind of also what I intend to create as like a safe, brave space so that you can be fully self-expressed and you don't need to hold anything back. And you can really explore maybe parts of you that you have suppressed, or parts of you that you have never even know existed, or parts of you that you want to explore because they are exciting, right? Like all of those things. It's a merge of all of this, but it's coming from a place of love.
what is love for you? When you say use the word love, what do you mean by it?
Love is more than just a word. It's hard to describe this because the moment you try to describe this, it's it becomes attached with labels, right? And love is something that you feel. Love is something that you sense. Like there's an energy behind love. So I don't necessarily want to give this any labels because that will probably distort the image of love. But it feels like a warm hug. It feels
Mm.
like you're being appreciated, you're being heard, you're being seen. And I do this for myself as well. Like that's my highest priority actually, right? That I show up the same way for myself. That means taking care of myself. And also like what I share with my clients, for example, is that when the camera is switched off, right? Like when there's no calls or something, who am I when nobody's watching, right? Am I different than on calls and with clients? Or am I the same or like practicing the values that I stand for, right? And that's something I really value. Like it would be funny to say, for example, I'm all about spreading the love, right? And then you witness me shouting at my partner in a way that like is disrespectful or something, right? And so that's like a mismatch in energy. So for me, it's being in alignment with my highest authority and also being fully authentic, right? And I talk about this. This is something we spoke about in the space. When you're being authentic, then your body is radiating out this energy of authenticity because your body believes what you're saying. And in this moment, your body sends out this frequency, and that's what people perceive as, yeah, this is authentic, right? This feels like the real deal. And yeah, that's what love is also for me. I'm gonna switch
Mm.
on the light here. Getting dark in Sri Lanka. Is that
Are you
okay?
Sri Lankan? Of course, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So, when I listen to you, Frank, I get this image. Have you ever encountered attachment theory and John Bowlby, and have you ever read about anything about him? So he's the founder of the attachment theory. He was a psychologist in the 20th century, I think in 1960s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and was later on also has been developed by other scholars as well. And they have this idea of a secure base. And they say that life is an exploration from a safe base. And that safe base is the parent. That safe base is the primary caretaker, whether it's a parent or it could be also somebody else, of course.
Beautiful.
And many people have grown up in environments where they have not had a secure attachment, where they have had parents that are unpredictable, parents that sometimes can be violent, parents that have their own trauma, generational trauma that they're dealing with,
Yeah.
unable to handle their own temper, for example. Can be also that, not necessarily that they are expressly abusive in any way. It could also be some kind of neglect, that they don't understand the needs of the child, for example.
Mm.
And that in itself also affects the child. So when you describe for me how you view love, right? I agree with you that love is more than you can describe. It's a mode of being, perhaps. I don't know. But then I think about the secure attachment that for your clients, in your life, for yourself even, you are that safe base. You create that safe base, secure base, from where your clients can explore what has been hurtful in the past, what has been hurtful now, traumas that they may have, and even discovering your deepest value requires a safe base, because you're afraid. Will I be judged? Will this be how will this be received by somebody else? How will I receive it, right? What will I think about it? Will I judge it? Will I meet this with non-judgment, or how will this be? What will happen to me? And providing that, I guess, is what you do, is what you see, at least what you want to do, and what you do actually, what you do actually as well. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you for sharing this, because well, this tells me that you see that in me, so it must be in you as well. And I can feel this actually from your energy. You provide like a safe space I can lean into, right? I want to lean forward, and I know you got me, right? Wherever I fall, Gabriel is there. And I also feel that there's no labels, there's no attachment, there's no expectation. There's just pure curiosity and presence. And when you create from a space like this, magic happens. And this is a beauty also of this podcast, right? Like we
Yeah.
started going deep right away, and now we're exploring the topic of love, unconditional love, presence, being with someone, and what this actually means, right? Like where what comes for me, what comes up for me also is this idea that one of our superpower is probably a big one that's linked to unconditional love is compassion, right? We can
Mm.
bring compassion and empathy into every situation. And with that also, we can bring gratitude and appreciation. We can bring this undivided attention, which I believe is the greatest gift you can give each other, right? Being fully present with someone and having them feel seen, heard, appreciated, valued, and fully immersed in the presence that we're creating. Yeah, that's worth playing
Yeah.
full out with. Yeah.
How do you stay in this mode of being? Because in my experience, my personal experience, life happens or you live life. It doesn't happen, you live life. And, I'm a parent. I have two kids, 7 and 5. I'm married. And, it's the dealing with, being tired. Sometimes if you have younger kids that don't sleep at night, you're tired. And
Mm.
sometimes it's just if you're working at a 9 to 5 as well, you're doing something that you truly don't love, but you still have to do it because you have to provide for your family and so on, until
Mm.
maybe you find a way out and so on and find what you truly want with your life. Or it can simply be that you're having a bad day, or you're sick, or it can be numerous numbers of reasons why you fall out of this mode of being. So how do you stay how do you stay in this in this mode of being, and how do you reconnect with that sense within yourself? How do you create that for yourself?
Yeah. I appreciate you for asking this, because that is one of my greatest challenges I'm constantly on a daily basis solving, right? Because living from that space requires that I am my own unconditional stand. So that means that I have to do the things that I know serve me. And what I mean by that is when I wake up, I do my gratitude journal, I do my breath work or breath play, I do my meditation, I do my walks in the morning, I ground myself. So I'm setting myself up for the day so that I'm in in a divine spirit, right? I'm connected, I'm tapped in, and I'm grounded. And that takes effort, right? Because sometimes, or exercise, right? And sometimes I don't want to do those things and I can't be bothered. But then I remind myself that, first of all, I love myself enough to show up for myself. And second of all, I love myself enough so that I can fill my own cup to the brim, so it fills it how do you say this, it laps over, and I can give to others more than um, when I'm depleted, as an example, right? Because when I'm depleted, I'm no good. That doesn't mean that I'm not depleted or that I don't do mess up or something, right? But the way I see this is I can always restore my integrity because my path that I return to, which is this unconditional love and being the unconditional stand for myself, is always available and is always there for me. Yeah.
What's the most challenging thing you
Let
have
me,
ever?
I'm going to
Yeah,
quickly turn
continue.
on the light
Yes.
because It's like,
That's okay.
sorry for
What's
that.
the most difficult challenge you had on this pathway?
I would say really loving every part of myself. And this is something people struggle with the most, I feel, right? That they want to they want to live a whole fulfilling life, but they're neglecting parts of themselves that they don't want to look at. It's like when you come into my house, I'm not going to show you the attic, right? Because the attic is like where I stuff all the stuff that I don't want you to see, right? And I had to walk into that attic to light everything up and bring everything out and make the attic the most beautiful place of the house, so to say. Internally, what this means is face everything painful, even the painful stuff, or especially probably the painful stuff that I don't want to face. And being fully honest with myself and taking a stand for myself as well, right? Like setting up healthy boundaries, living by my values, and really having this unconditional loving energy surrounding me by being aware of it, right? It's like you're kind of setting this up as a field, and then it helps you to set boundaries. It helps you to show up from like a neutral space when I'm, for example, not just with clients, but also with you here, right? Like I really love and appreciate you for having this conversation with me, and I'm fully present with you. And the same goes for my partner, right? She's in Poland right now, or my stepson, right? When we have a conversation, I'm fully present with him. And I do this also because this is how I choose to show up. It's a choice, right? And yeah, we have this choice every moment. We can use this tiny little space before making a choice to actually consciously direct our energy towards something. And this brings me to, my mom passed away
Mm,
last September.
I'm sorry for that.
And no, it's okay. It's actually, I'm grateful because, well, she's no more in pain now, but it was a long, like a cancer journey. I cried. The first time I cried was here in Sri Lanka, actually. So since then, she's much more present with me. But what I want to share with you and also everybody who's listening is that when she passed away, I was with her, and I witnessed her last breath. I witnessed that. And while I was like petting her head, she took her last breath. And with that, I saw her life force leaving her. And the gift that she's given me because of that is that I want to be really conscious where I direct my breath, because for everything we need our breath. If we fight, we need our breath. If we have an argument, we need our breath. When we judge, we need our breath. When we love, we need our breath. When we go for a walk, right? For everything, we need
Yeah,
our breath. I mean, when you do, let's say, Wim Hof breathing, you may stop your breathing for like 3-4 minutes or something like this, but we need our breath. And so I want to be very aware where I direct my energy, my breath, my life force towards, right? So this was a wake up call for me to really become present. Yeah.
and for somebody who is struggling with loving themselves fully, all parts of themselves, somebody who's struggling to even see all parts of themselves, to explore all parts of themselves. What do you think? Like, what does that person need, or not? What does that person need? What advice, or maybe advice is even the wrong word to use. But what would you tell me, for example? I have difficulties exploring all parts of myself and loving all parts of myself. That's a daily struggle that I have. I think all people have, but I also do that. I have that. What would you tell me? How can I do that?
What comes up for me now is, first of all, are you willing to explore what's there? And what I would probably normally do is also like go into the body, because when you go into the body, there's energies in the body that your body can metabolize when you get out of the way, and really use our divine suit to help release blockages, release everything that takes us away from our divinity, right? Because that's what our body is designed for. And when you connect with your body, your body is able to, like, let's say you bring awareness to an energy that's stiff in your heart area, as an example, right? All you have to do is be present with it for a moment, or maybe for a little bit longer, right? But some people are not willing in the beginning to be present with things, or I had to forgive the people who, like the kids who, for example, mobbed me at school from the first year to the 11th or 12th year even. And I had to forgive them, in forgiving into unconditional love. And there's so many things. Like, what I would probably also ask you is, how does that show up in your life?
Yeah.
And then dive deeper into this. But what I do, I can actually show you, because I've done this literally nearly every day since I'm here in Sri Lanka. I write a love letter to myself on a daily basis.
Wonderful. It's beautiful.
And I write,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
I love myself unconditionally. And every page is filled like this. And it's part of my morning routine, or my day routine. I sometimes even do this before calls. So there are many things you can do to fall in love with yourself, right? Like, one thing actually that it just comes to me now. My partner Anya, she said to me, because I really struggled with this a lot, and I was neglecting myself, and I was beating myself up because I had so high expectations, and I just wouldn't succeed, right? And I was scared of, like, rejection, people ridiculing me because of my German accent, my big nose, I have no earlobes, right? Like, there's so many things I could judge about myself, but I love myself unconditionally now. And the reason why I can say this is, she said to me, Frank, if you would see yourself, this is powerful, right? This is that, like, makes me emotional even. If you would see yourself like others see you, Frank, you would, and this goes for you as well, Gabriel, you would completely fall in love with yourself.
That is powerful.
Yeah. And it's true.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that the first step in wanting to explore this at all is the attitude to exploration, right?
Yeah, willingness. Yes.
Willingness, attitude and willingness to be able to do that, and then you actually do explore it. And for me, like, when I have done the same thing with other clients, I'm not done with my own personal work in this area at all. I can say that much. It's an exploration. It's a lifelong journey. I think for my clients, when I do work with them, I often ask them about it. Also, often shows up as a personal story, right? As a narrative, and behind that narrative lies much more. There are thoughts, there are judgments, there are sensations in the body that show up, and I find that a good attitude or a good antidote to self-judgment is self-love, or self-compassion, more than self-love. I think self-compassion comes before self-love, or maybe they come at the same time. I'm not certain. In my own experience, I think self-compassion comes first. It's the first step on the path, but certainly comes as a narrative, as a thought. And what I also found is that the biggest suffering comes from being stuck with your thoughts, with your inside of your narrative, right? So you are your narrative. Instead of saying, I have these thoughts, I think that I am ugly, for example, or I am not smart. My English is not good enough. These are thoughts that I have, but I express them as a narrative. I'm stupid, or I'm ugly, for example. I'm fat. Whatever thoughts you may have. I'm a failure, for example. And one thing that I found to be very powerful, and it's difficult to do. It's simple, but it's difficult. It is to this reframe, to reframe it from I am to I have. The following thought has been extremely powerful for myself. But again, we're not always aware of the thoughts. We're not always aware of the sensations that we have.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm talking to you, and I have my conscious thoughts, but then I notice I have other thoughts as well that run like on below the surface level of the conscious experience of conscious thought.
Yeah. I'm taking notes here because you're saying some really beautiful things that I want to circle back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is this also your experience, or?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel this is probably everybody's experience at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
what I also practice is what I would call being the observer. And what I do in a playful way, literally, is when I experience something that I feel ashamed of or where I feel guilt, right? I say I'm experiencing the feeling of guilt. I'm experiencing the feeling of shame. And what this does is it creates distance between you and the feeling itself, right? Because most of the stories why we fall out of love with ourselves are the judgments that we carry and we hold on to, which then creates those patterns where we react or where we snap or where we do stupid things, right? And when you detach, you have an opportunity to see that those thoughts and those feelings don't have to run your life because they're not you, right? You're the one experiencing it. You're the one experiencing the thoughts of, let's say, not being good enough, right? But this is really, I want to share this as like an excursus to this, because when I share this with my coach was listening for about probably like 45 minutes straight. And I was just like complaining about life and sharing how much I don't like myself, I hate myself, and how much I have to beat myself up for the things. And he then stopped me and said, Frank, just because you think something doesn't make it true. This moment was like, my head exploded. Because in this moment, the connection that I made in this moment was, what if this isn't true? I'm wasting so much energy for something that might not even be true anymore, right? And then you can acknowledge, like when you become an observer, you can also acknowledge the time from, let's say, when you started developing this pattern or this image about yourself, and you can kind of track how this has served you up to the moment when you become aware, right? Because it created the life that that you live right now. So it must have served you in a way to keep you safe or to keep you alive or to keep you sane, right? And justify the path that you're on, justify the choices that you're making. But when you go back with this awareness that you have now, you can also, in most cases, you can see that in our childhood, you could have also made different choices and created completely different beliefs, because now you can see that, oh, they've done this thing to me because they were beaten up at home and they had all this suffering going on, so they needed this this ventil or this outlet to get rid of this energy, right? And I was the outlet, so I was blessed to receive this because they had no other pathway. And I was strong enough to hold this for them, right? As an example. So we can bring in compassion, and that changes everything. Like when I look back now, that is exactly what happened with the people who mobbed me at school, as an example.
Yeah.
And then you can also go into, well, there's obviously this idea of like Byron Katie, when you say, who are you when you no longer think this thought, right? And I started thinking about, who am I? I'm actually courageous. I actually care about people more than anybody else. I care about my well-being. I really love myself because I know I'm a good guy, right? And I started to see, oh, there's so much more here. Does that make sense?
Fully sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Full sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, something that I've thought about also is like this goes for both in relation to other people and in relation to us. This exploration of the difficult parts of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It requires trust. It requires a warm relationship. It requires an alliance. So, for example, for me, I know I was very sensitive as a child, and my sensitivity was not something that was met with well, right? So I would cry, for example, for what seemed to other people would be like, well, why are you crying over this? So I was a highly sensitive child. Tears came easily to me, and for me that I mean when I was met without understanding, like I had the need to be understood and to be validated. My emotions had to be validated, but I wasn't most of the time, at least. And that, with time, as I grew up, I created an armor around myself so that there was a complete disconnect between my thoughts and my emotions. So now I know for a fact, for example, that when something happens that in my past would have invited tears, for example, or just feelings not so good, or it can be anxiety, it can be fear, it could be sorrow, it could be any kind of like emotion. There's a immediate, almost an immediate, like you take a scissors and you just cut the cord, right? There's a disconnect, complete disconnect from my body and my conscious mind, and it has taken me many years to understand that. So it has created for me at least an avoidant attachment style. So I avoid my own emotions, and which means I am also have I become wary, and I become fearful, almost not fearful, but I become anxious when somebody else almost shows show their emotions if it's too much. I like being independent, and for me that means naturally it means to not feel too much, or if I feel, to keep it inside and not even be aware of it. And for me to be able to explore that, it requires for me to be a safe base for myself. And if I talk to somebody else, for that person for me to be able to trust that person, it requires that kind of, relationship where I can dare to explore my own sensations, to feel everything and not just go away with my mind, with my conscious mind somewhere else, to avoid my feeling, right? So I think the relationship is absolutely fundamental, both to yourself and to others, for you to be able to actually have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel in your body right now?
I'm a bit tense in my shoulders. I'm slouching down. I don't have a good posture at the moment. I feel my pulse in my belly, but it's not constricted in any way. It's rather open. The tenseness from my shoulder shoots up to my neck also, and in my face. The pulsation in my forehead. It's not a gross sensation. It's simply a pulsation. I have the sense that I'm not searching for anything. Also at the same time.
You're not searching for anything?
No, I'm not searching for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just here right now.
And with the energy in your shoulders, is there any, like when you just bring your awareness to your shoulders and surround this with your loving energy, with like maybe a liquid golden light, is there any message that you're receiving? Is there anything that comes up?
Well, love me comes up for me. Love me.
What part of you is saying that?
It's my back.
Hmm.
My back says love me. Take care of me.
Wow. Yeah. Because it stabilizes us, right? Yeah.
It does.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah. Thank you for guiding me.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, like, I feel we can go much deeper into this,
Yes.
but I don't want to hijack
That's okay.
the podcast. But what I want to share with you also is that I feel your body knows to do certain things better than you do. What I mean by that is, like, it's a natural response, right? Like, we're talking about unconditional love, and something comes up in you so that you get to look at this, right? Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You get to look at something that is kind of like a child that wants attention, right? It's like pulling, hey, can you look at me, please?
Yeah.
Something like this.
Yeah.
And it's coming up for a reason. And if it says love me, then maybe the tension in your shoulders are a reminder to love a part of you that maybe has been neglected a little bit or has been not getting enough attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know which part this is, right? Like, if you say it back, for me, this is kind of like a foundational pillar because it stabilizes us and it brings us into like a straight posture where we can experience. And there's no need to avoid any emotion when you detach yourself from it, right? You get to, because this is part of life. Emotions are here to be experienced, all of them.
Yeah.
Good emotions, bad emotions, neutral emotions, really good emotions, and really bad emotions. They're here to experience. It's part of life. So with that, you can embrace those emotions and make space for them, bring them in, because they carry messages for you, for me, for my clients, for my partner, for my stepson, for the people I love and care about, my dad, right? They carry messages. So it's good to pay attention to tension, right? I had a little tension earlier when I started talking about my own story, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in the light here. I don't want to share all of this vulnerable stuff. But at the same time, it's like this part of me then also says, no, I appreciate you asking, because, well, you invited me. So I want to give you the opportunity to shine the light on me as well, right? It's a give and take. And I have trouble receiving compliments as well. And I solved this when I started saying, thank you, I received this with all my heart. And what it does then also is it gives you the opportunity to be grateful, right? To give this gratitude, to give appreciation, which is a blessing in itself as well. But yeah, so how are your shoulders now?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think circling back to that, and also the sensations, feeling all your emotions,
Hmm.
I believe that I think a lot of people live in their heads,
Oh yeah.
right? We live in an age where living in the head is, we're supported, we're encouraged, we're socialized into thinking that what's in the head is most important. You know, there's in like I'm in religious studies, and I know that this is also happening in all humanistic fields. So psychology, history. There's a turn to the body has been done in the past 20 years, almost not even 20 years. So before that, from the Enlightenment period, even in the field of like in scholarly fields, head, rational thought is what has been, the most important part, whereas the body has been neglected completely. And now more and more we're understanding, realizing that
Oh,
it cannot be the case, that it's not healthy, that we're neglecting a big part of our own experience, maybe the most among the most important parts of our experience. It's like looking at reality with only one eye when you have two eyes, for example. And it is a daily practice. If you're not used to doing that, if you're not used to tapping into your own body, example, I have a meditation practice where I do scan my sensations and like from top to toe. That's like which I do every day, and these messages do show up, like you said. And I think one powerful thing that I do when I do meditate and also in other situations is what message wants to be heard here. That's a question I ask, right?
Powerful, yeah.
What
Exactly.
what message wants to be heard? Like it can be in a conversation that you have with a friend, with your partner. What message wants to be heard?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Often we are otherwise. I want to speak. I want to listen. I want to just say something. But what wants to be heard?
Yeah.
That goes much deeper, I think.
Yeah. And what I love about what you just said is that you go past I understand when you say what message wants to be heard, because you want to really take a good look what's available in this moment to look at, right? And this goes past I understand. Let's go to the next topic. Right?
It opens you up, right? It's like
Yeah.
a curiosity opener. Like, what am I not seeing here?
Yeah.
Right? What am I not seeing here? What am I not hearing here? What am I not sensing here?
Yeah.
Maybe you're just focused on something and then you open up and say, okay, what's going on? Let's see what's going on and open up.
I love this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we look into life just like this, right? And then we can't see what's around.
Yeah.
Or we want things to be a certain way, like we're looking at this little dot there, but we miss all the magic on the side.
Absolutely.
And yeah, this opens you up to holistic, to a more holistic experience, and also really tuning in into what's available, because there's so much available. There's even in silence, there's so much wisdom and insights available that come to life through silence and also through the moments of self-reflection. Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to turn to another topic, if it's okay with you, Frank.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you said you decided, you met your fear and you decided that you're going to start your coaching business, and then you said that you hit quite quickly. You went to 6 figures, as you said. So for people who are in beginning or maybe in the middle and they're struggling, because I mean you can start and then you can also make you can get to a certain point and then you can also feel like you struggle along the way, right? What do you have to tell them? Like, what was your pathway to getting into this position where you can actually make a living and you can work with this all your time as much as you want, right? Where you don't feel that you need anything else, so to speak. You can support your family.
Well, the number one thing that I would probably also tell my younger version is just start, like get going, and really dive in. Like if it's a journey of 1,000 steps, it starts with the first step, right? And the first step is to make a choice, because the moment you make the choice, the action follows immediately, and that's what I struggled with, right? I was so fearful making that choice because the action wasn't as scary as I thought it was, right? And also, I feel that sometimes we have to really walk into the dragon to see that there's no dragon anymore, right? It's just smoke and mirrors, and you have this big, massive dragon in front of you that's scaring you, and like, oh my God, what do I do now? I can't face him, right? Or her. And then you walk in, it's like, where's it gone? Just disappeared. And that's what I experienced. So I had to jump. Before I did this, my coach actually shared with me this moment that when you stand in front of a cliff and you have your parachute on your back, it doesn't open when you just stand there. You actually have to jump for it to open. And that also doesn't count when you go into your knees and get ready for jumping, right? You have to jump. You have to actually make that choice and then move and jump, because that's when you open your parachute. And yeah, you will get bruised and you will get scratches, but that's part of the game. It's fun. That makes you stronger, that makes you more of like who you are. And also seeing, for example, like when you look at coaching or guiding or whatever you want to call this, it's just a label, right? Like being
Yeah,
there
sure.
with people and being present with people. It's it's a sacred service. Like that's what I share with my clients, right? Like what my clients are co-creating is really sacred. And it's something that's worth sharing. It's something that's worth taking into the world and shining the light, being the lighthouse, right, for others. And they're building amazing businesses. They're being a stand for so many people. So your service, whatever this is that you want to bring into the world, will create ripple effects that you don't even know exist, right? And it would be a shame for, like, there's this saying from Wayne Dyer, don't die with the music inside of you, because it wants to be expressed, it wants to be heard, right? It wants to be appreciated and it wants to be shared, it wants to be listened to. And the the message that I had for myself, like going back to the younger version, is you're ready. And even if you don't feel you're ready, you're ready. Just jump. And I jumped. I had to make that choice. Yeah, and that was really scary because I left like a contractor job where I had like a seemingly safe pay, um, but I was running against the ceiling, and my ceiling was around like 4,000 pound ish, right? And then this was the most crazy day. I woke up one morning and I had three scheduled calls booked for the day, right? And I woke up on the morning and there was sun shining through. Like there was one of the rare days where we have sun in the UK. And I remember feeling, okay, so I'm going to approach today as if I don't know anything about my limiting beliefs, right? I'm just going to leave them wherever they want to be, but they're not coming with me into the day. And I'm going to play as if I am already the Frank I want to be, so to say. So I had no limitation, right? And immediately my energy completely shifted. Like I was in a space of gratitude. I was in a space of joy. I was in a space of exploring, and I was in a space of presence with all those clients. And that day, I signed all three of them, and I created 57,000 pounds in one day. And this was more than I had in a year before, right? And it blew my mind. And I'm so grateful because it helped me see that if I consider myself, this is actually what I thought in this moment, like looking back, right? There are so many people who consider themselves maybe not good enough, a loser, or whatever the label is, right? And I considered myself that, but I left it on the sideline. I was like, okay, so you're not going to go and play with me today, right? I'm going to leave you out and you're not coming in. You stay there. And I demanded this, I commanded this, right? And everybody can do that. And it showed me that even if I had those labels the day before, I was able to create this impact. I was able to create this initiation into abundance because that is what it was for me, right? And I saw like, wow, if I think that about myself, I wonder what other people who think the same thoughts about themselves, that they are not worthy, they can't do stuff, uh, that who am I to serve others, right? Like all those things, they don't matter. And it helped me see that it's not about me. It's not about me. I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to make this about me. I want to make this about, I want to show up for those people and I cannot wait to get to work with them. And that's still the same thing today with all my clients, including the ones from X already.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And to see them creating results, like now, the even second client, we started working in December. And nearly all of them have clients except one, and it's amazing to see. And it's amazing to see also that it's not about the client, it's about what are they going to do with them, right? Like the co-creation that comes with that, and the changes that they witness in themselves, who they are becoming on this journey. This is like fills my heart.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful to see. Yeah.
When you started your business, you didn't start it on X, right? You started somewhere else.
No. Yeah. Yeah. That wasn't on X. No, on X, I'm now from August. So
Yeah.
I have my client base outside of X. And I came into X because I wanted to explore, to create a network of powerful coaches and be a stand for really amazing coaches to help. Because what I see, like to track back a little bit, what I see is that the coaching industry and like what is shared, like all the information that's out there, is misleading coaches. And because of that, they're not positioning themselves in a way that it makes sense for their highest good, but it makes sense for the coaching industry, which makes them come back to other courses and other teachings and those things, right?
Sure.
And it's like a cycle that repeats, and it keeps you stuck. And because of that, also coaches don't value themselves enough, and they don't charge enough. They feel like they can't combine spirituality and coaching, or charging people um, for their services, because they have this inner conflict going on, right? I had this in the beginning as well, when I was like realizing, holy shit, the spiritual journey is like money is part of spiritual journey, and it wants to be embraced, it wants to be invited into everything, because it makes you better at who you are, and it just highlights more of who you already are, right? So if you're an asshole, it's going to highlight that. If you're an epic human being, it's going to highlight that. That's amazing. I want this, and I want this for others as well. Yeah.
And for coaches that are only beginning now, and you can answer this however you want, of course. And I think, what I hear you saying is that you have the fear and you just have to make the choice. Then you have to let go of the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. Put them to the side, right? Command them to the side. And then once you have done that, what's your step? Do you think it's important, for example, to, like, for me, in my understanding, how I approach it is, I invite people into my space. I invite people into my life. I invite people to work with me, right? And it's an invitation. That's how I want to view the whole thing. So what would you recommend? How would a person go about who's starting a business to finding clients, for example? This is also something, if you remember, we talked about on the space that we had also as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what would be the pathway? Like, what was it for you? You weren't on X. You didn't have maybe, you want to find people. You want to find your tribe. You want to find your people that you want to love and that you want to work with.
Yeah. That's a beautiful question. I mean, the way I want to answer this is, it's all about energy. It's about the content you put out and the energy behind it. It's about the spaces you put out and the energy behind it. It's about what you share and the energy behind it, because this will ring something in people. Like, you're this tuning fork, right? To bring like a music example, you're this tuning fork, and this tuning fork starts vibrating. And with this tuning fork that's vibrating, you create your content. So in all your content, and this is what I experienced actually, like this is how this happened. Magic. It was like magic, seriously, like magic. In all my content, this tuning fork and this frequency is present, and you can go through every single content, right? Like when I'm vulnerable, when I'm sharing something, obviously I fell for like, oh, you have to have like 1,000 people to create your first, like we can throw this out of the window, because that's not true, right? Like, I had my first client when I had 111 followers, so that's like completely BS.
Yeah.
And but this tuning fork is important, because this energy is present in everything, right? And people feel it to a degree where it's like, it started swinging something in them, or even they have the same frequency and they were like, oh, whoa. And because of that, the tuning folks are drawn to each other. And this is literally what I experienced in DMs. I had people reach out to me and say, Frank, we need to talk. Or it's about time that, for example, also, are you still there? Yeah. Also, how this happened, right? It's about time that we get to connect. It's because of the energy. It's like it's drawing us closer. And it's divine timing. It's divine intervention, even. It's just a beautiful unfolding. And when you get to connect with those people, you feel it. And people already know when they come on a call with you within seconds if they want to work with you or not, based on the energy. All you have to do is trust that. This is basically what it is. Obviously, we can go deeper because there are nuances. I'm aware of this as well. But the energy is the most important part. And knowing in the back of your mind also that you're showing up for them for their highest good, and you're showing up for them in with a sacred service. Again, like this sacred service is so important, because when you have something that you're fully aligned with, like that's like you're fully embodying this, right? Then you want to share it with as many people as possible, because you know the impact it's going to make, right? It's not something that like you see like a shitty service. As an example, in my DMs, I sometimes get messages, oh, I get you to like 10,000 followers in 2 weeks. We know this is a scam, right? But what we do here is not a scam. That's a sacred service. That's the difference, right? So you can freely talk about this, and you can be direct, and you can invite from the heart, right? With your heart and soul, you can be a stand for what you're embodying, and people will feel it. And the people who don't, they're not your people. Easy as that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Frank.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think I have one last question. I think. What wants to be heard in this room that hasn't been heard yet in this space?
I was thinking something about you, something that maybe you're carrying inside of you. Really, like there's something in you. I feel this from the moment that we started connecting. Like there's something in you that wants to be expressed or be heard. And I can't put my finger on this, what it is. But I know something is there. I feel it. You want to share what this is, or do you like? Are you aware what this could be?
Well, I've worked with my own, I think, creative expression for also my entire adult life in different ways, and I find myself being drawn to this idea that there's goodness in everyone. Everyone is good. I'm drawn to the idea that life is beautiful. I'm drawn to the idea that life is not only beautiful. I've experienced, and I see around me that there's a lot of suffering in this world within myself. And that it's not that beauty takes all that away. It's that's part of the story. And denying the wounds that you may have, that I may have, is also to deny life, right? And I'm drawn more and more to the idea that I am that safe place, right? We talked about the safe place. I am a safe place. If you ask my wife, she'll tell me you're a safe place. She told me the other day, she texted me while we were standing next to each other, because I think she had the thought, and we were at the gym and we were working out and there was a high music, and she said, you're my shelter in the hurricane. Which is beautiful, right? You're my shelter in the hurricane. So I know I'm a safe place for myself and for my clients, and my entire life is about exploring dimensions of that, how I can be that for other people. I know I'm that for my wife. I know I'm that for my kids. I know I'm that for my clients that I show up with. I know that I'm that in my family system. I know I'm that with my friends as well. And for me, it's remembering that and expressing that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you, because this is like what I'm curious about now. What does it mean for you to be a safe space? And who are you at your best providing that space for yourself?
I love the image of stillness. So safe space is being predictable and being still in the midst of a hurricane. When I have taught, because I've taught meditation classes as well. So I love using the image. I don't know where it came from, but I learned it from Sharon Salzberg, where she uses the image of a mountain. Yeah. So you're the mountain, you're sitting there, and around the mountain, no matter how high it can be, there can be hurricanes, there can be rain, hail, snow, winds, cold, warm, whatever. But you're the mountain, you're sitting, and in the midst of all of that. And you can have peace in the midst of all of that if you simply sit and you notice, and without any judgment. And sometimes there's judgment. Sometimes there's judgment, of course. Many times there's judgment. Who we're kidding, right? And it's necessary sometimes to even have judgment. But simply noticing, I think, is and being there and being predictable. Because that's something I know for children, for example. They want predictability, who sees them, somebody who validates them, somebody who also sets boundaries because they have a need of setting boundaries, somebody who understands their other needs and who's able to use labels actually to help them describe what they go through. But that's the way out of an emotion is through the emotion, right? The way to understand the world is by using labels. So these are important things, but I think it's important to remember that we should not identify the labels with the thing themselves, right? Yeah, there are labels to describe something that's deeper there, but they're necessary.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. So that's, I think, I don't like the question who I am, but that's what I notice. That's what shows up to me when you, at least when you ask me that question.
Yeah. The image that comes to me, and this is a beautiful image. I want to share this with you because it's like, when the storm is approaching, like this is how I literally see you. Like, I can see you this, like translated as an animal. I see you as the bison, right? You're not afraid to actually, like, you're going into the storm. You're this calm, peaceful state in the midst of adversity, in the midst of life happening, and you're providing this for your, as you say, for your clients, for your family, for your kids, and just noticing this this discomfort while being the bison, knowing that you are the bison, so the storm can't harm you. You can stand any storm, right? And that's probably how your kids see you, how your wife sees you. And because of that, there's tremendous amount of trust, and everything is built on trust, right? Yeah. And you're the bison also when the storm is over.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I receive that with all my heart.
It's a beautiful image because the bison is not afraid of adversity and facing the challenges because it knows of its innate divine power. And I can see this in you as well. And here's an invitation, right? Also, you can lean into this even further and embody this even more. What would that look like for you? What does the bison do when it gets tired?
It's best. It sits on the cushion. Notice that I'm tired. It takes a break because it needs a break. It eats well. It spends time in solitude, spends time in nature, opens up to all. It walks and grazes on great pastures, beautiful pastures, and takes in everything that's there. Yeah, that's the image I see.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how the bison restores itself, right?
Absolutely.
And you know the mechanisms for you to restore yourself with, like, let's say, exercise, rest,
Yeah.
cuddles with your kids, with your wife, going for
Abs-
walks, being in solitude, hearing your own thoughts, right? Without any adulteration of like social media or whatever is out there. There's so much noise. The bison wants to settle into silence, right? It's like standing on its own in the vastness of everything and saying, I'm here. Yeah. That's how I see you. Beautiful image.
Thank you, Frank. I'll remember that image for the rest of my life now. Nobody has ever said, I've seen mountain, I've said to myself lion, but I've never seen bison. But I like bison, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Frank, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you for this energy in this room, Frank. Where can people go and find you if they want to find you and be in touch with you?
Well, on X, I'm also on X. It's Frank Sieben X, which is so funny because when I joined in August, I didn't know that it's going to be called X, and I just was like, oh, I'm gonna do it like an X because Frank Sieben was taken. So it's Frank Sieben X, and I'm at the moment I'm also working on a newsletter which is coming out. I'm working on also I can probably share this because it's a beautiful thing, right? Like, I'm standing fully behind this. Now I'm reintegrating the music production into my business again, right? And 3 years ago, what I did was with my clients, I created like a song where I embed healing frequencies, solfeggio frequencies, DNA healing frequencies, chakra aligning frequencies. And then I had my clients send me a voice note who they are going to be, what they're going to create in the present tense, what they're grateful for, what they appreciate in their life, and everything they want to speak into existence, right? And it became those 5 to 10 minute versions of this voice memo. And then I take this voice memo and I put it into this track. And it's called super, well, maybe the name is going to change, but it's called Super You. Because it's like you get to program yourself or reprogram yourself with who you want to be and how you want to show up for yourself, for others. And it's really, really powerful. So I have, I'm in preparation of that. And then there's so much more. But yeah, everything is basically on X. And I'm also rebuilding my website, but one step at a time, right? It's, yeah.
Yes,
The,
one step at.
yeah. But that's where people can find me. And yeah, I'm really grateful being in your space, Gabriel. That was a beautiful conversation. I love
I agree.
how you provide space and how you create room for all this wisdom and insight to surface. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's
Same to
amazing
you,
skill.
Frank. Same to you, Frank. Thank you so much for being an amazing conversational partner, for sharing, for being vulnerable, and for creating a safe space where we can co-create this podcast together. I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
I almost feel like I'm sad it's over.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. And thank everybody for tuning in and listening, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so
Do
much, all
something
of you.
with those insights, like, because only when you actually act on them, something will change, and maybe something resonated deeply with you. Yeah, share it,
Yeah, absolutely.
connect. Yeah, reach out to Gabriel if you feel called to do so. Reach out to me if you feel called to do so. We're here for you.
We're here for you. Absolutely. You can also find me on X. All right.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.